Hi, I'm Mike Warner, this year's president of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I would like to welcome you to the 2018 Candidates Forum in partnership with Medina TV. All candidates in contested races were invited to be interviewed. I'm pleased to be joined by Jared Fry of Medina TV for the interviews. We hope you find these interviews informative and helpful as you cast your vote. We'd like to welcome Ken Harbaugh, candidate for Congress in the 7th District, to the Greater Medina Chamber and Medina TV Candidates Forum. Let's begin by having you tell us about yourself.
You got it. Thanks. Great to be here, Mike and Jared. I'm a former Navy pilot, dad, got 3 kids, married a Medina girl, as a matter of fact, 20 years ago, right here at St. Francis.
Congratulations.
But thank you. When we're still at it. But spent the first half of my career as a Navy signals intelligence pilot, flying missions off of Russia and China and North Korea after 9/11. Of course, everything shifted over to the Middle East. But when I got out of the military and settled down in Ohio, I found my way to Team Rubicon, a disaster relief organization that retrains military veterans to deploy to some of the toughest environments imaginable. One of the things that we realized was that the generation of vets coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan have an incredible wealth of skills and experiences that if repurposed, if redeployed, can be put to great use doing good, helping people on the worst days of their lives. So Team Rubicon has now retrained over 50,000 military veterans to be on the front lines of disasters around the world, but mostly right here in the U.S. We're on standby as Hurricane Florence is bearing down. We've got Team Rubicon volunteers, retrained military veterans still in Texas, cleaning up after Hurricane Harvey, in Puerto Rico, fighting wildfires out west. That's what I've been doing for the last part of my professional career, but realized our politics was its own kind of disaster and decided to get off the sidelines and do something about it.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's great. You did a good job of sharing your background. What kind of skills and expertise do you feel you'll bring to this position?
I'm a problem solver, and I think there is precious little of that in Washington right now. When I was leading my disaster relief crews at Team Rubicon, or when I was a mission commander in the Navy, we couldn't have cared less about the politics of the people to our right and to our left. I guarantee you, when Team Rubicon was pulling people off of the roofs of 2-story homes in Houston after Hurricane Harvey, they didn't ask anyone who they voted for. One of my last missions as a Navy aircraft commander was off in North Korea, and we lost an engine on that mission. And it wasn't as if in that moment I turned to my co-pilot and said, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" We put the engine to bed. We actually finished the mission. We got the plane down and we saved the crew. I think we need more of that. We need that bias for action, that ability to dispense with all the political games and get down to the real work of serving the folks who send their representatives to Congress.
Now you kind of touch on this, so I'll look for you to expand here. Polls now come out, and a lot of people are of the opinion that the government system's kind of broken and not quite functioning correctly. How would you see it of ways of fixing that?
The first thing we need are real leaders, people with the courage to stand up for what's right, most importantly, for who they actually work for. To me, it goes back to the oath of office that I swore 22 years ago, which happens to be the same oath on paper that congressmen swear, but I think there's something fundamentally different. When you raise your right hand, as I did as a 22-year-old joining the Navy, you swear that oath and then you put your life on the line for it. You carry it with you forever. I think Congress needs to be reminded, though, that it is not an oath to a party. It is not an oath to any one individual. It is an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, which is us. The first 3 words are we the people. If we can get back to that, if we can get back to serving we the people, I think we could get a heck of a lot more done.
Now you're doing a great job of showing some leadership qualities there and some of your answers you've given us. How do you feel your leadership qualities would differ from your opponent?
Number one is I'm willing to show up. I mean, we have done over 100 public events in the course of this campaign. My opponent has done 1. In 8 years, he's hardly ever held a town hall, unless you count the tele-town halls where you are literally separated from the voter by a TV screen. I don't think that's the job. A voter pointed out to me at one of our many town halls that the word present is in the job title, representative. If you're not going to show up, if you're not going to have the guts to look the voter in the eye and explain where you're coming from and have that conversation, if you're not going to believe that an election is part of a conversation, it's not the end of a conversation, then I think you got to pass the torch. And I would throw that challenge down for most of our political leadership right now on both sides of the aisle. They need to pass the torch. We need a new generation of leaders in Washington.
Strong. Very good. Switching gears a little bit with regards to some businesses issues, workforce seems to be a big hot topic in our region today. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think you can do for workforce development? And
Absolutely, because when I talk to business leaders, when I talk to investors, when I talk to folks on the labor side, they marvel at the natural advantages we have on the natural resource side. Of course, we've got land, we've got power, we've got the Great Lakes, we have things that would be the envy of other states if we tapped into it. And the thing we have most of all that we are not taking advantage of is the best workforce in the world. I come at this as the president of an organization, Team Rubicon, that didn't just retrain, but helped redeploy tens of thousands of military veterans, realizing that the skills and experiences they had were second to none. We've got that right here in Medina County, in the Ohio 7th. If we can identify the needs, and the needs are tremendous. If we can match the skills with those needs, we can do incredible things. You realize, and this is a great setting to bring this up in, the Ohio 7th has the 411th worst high-speed connectivity in the nation out of 435 congressional districts. We have worse connectivity than rural areas of Nevada. That is unconscionable, given that an infrastructure investment with people being put to work here could fix that.
Very good. Can you give us some other examples of priorities that you would bring to government to make government more business friendly?
You know, healthcare is at or near the top of the list because it's a business concern. It's a huge business concern. It's, of course, a well-being concern, a family concern, but I can't tell you how many businesses I talk to can barely afford to cover their folks, or how many entrepreneurs I talk to, or people who want to chase that dream job but are trapped in a circumstance because of a healthcare concern, a pre-existing condition. And for me, this isn't political, it's it's personal. I've got 3 kids, and my middle daughter has a pre-existing condition. Lizzie needed 4 surgeries as an infant. And Anne-Marie and I had to schedule the first one of those without knowing how we would pay for it. That is a terrifying place to be in as a family, as a father, and the thought that in the richest country on earth, we are still leaving it to a roll of the dice for families to figure out how to take care of a loved one is, well, it's not what I fought for. It's not what I fought for. And the reason we're not getting it right is because of a lack of leadership and guts in Washington.
Now, do you feel you kind of brought up the healthcare and then the workforce side of it. Are there other overall issues you feel you'll have to face head on when in office?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about the challenges that face us in the Ohio 7th, I approach it from the perspective of a disaster responder. And when you drop into a disaster environment, and I've been to plenty. I was in the Philippines in the wake of Typhoon Haiyan, the strongest storm in recorded human history. There are a million things that you could tackle. There's buildings that are on the verge of collapsing. There's the lack of potable water, but you stop the bleeding first. And the arterial wound in the Ohio 7th, and it dovetails with healthcare, is the opioid epidemic. We got to start addressing this opioid epidemic with the seriousness it merits. We lost more people to heroin overdoses as a country last year than we lost during the entire Vietnam War. And I cannot tell you how many times a grandparent or a sibling comes up to me and says, Ken, you've got to win, because I took my loved one to the treatment center, and the charge nurse signing us in said, "Thank you so much for arriving at this point. It is a critical step on the path to recovery. Come back in a few weeks, we might have a bed available." And they almost never make it back. That is not the sign of leadership of a government that is treating this epidemic with the degree of seriousness it merits.
Yeah, very good. What else would you like the voters to know at home as they come to vote this year?
I leave this with every group that I talk to, and it's a simple challenge to, whenever someone comes in front of you asking for your vote, don't take their word for it. Look at their record. Look at how they've lived their life and judge them based on that. I've spent a lifetime in service. I mean, a lifetime. I was born just outside a military base. When I got out of school, I joined the Navy and flew signals intelligence missions and led air crews in some pretty tough places. And I left that and became president of a disaster relief organization that exists to help people on the worst days of their lives. And I'm running for Congress today because I think about that oath of office to the Constitution, to we the people, and when you swear that and then put your life on the line for it, that promise doesn't go away. And I see our politics, as fractured as it is, in desperate need of people who are going to recall that oath and fight for it.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate you taking the time to answer questions, and best of luck to you this November.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great being here. Appreciate it.